Hi, everyone. It has been both a very rainy, wonderful day here. We need the water so badly. And then I had one of those computer failures that puts you back a day yesterday, and thought that I could get everything done for the 7:30 tonight. That's what held us up. But we are here. I have Fluffy Chocolate Little Bee in here waving his tail. And I have the best news. We broke through 172,000 subscribers this week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is a wonderful feeling to do all this work, even if there are computer problems, for all of us to keep evolving in our learning about this planet, this solar system, this universe, and the fact that hopefully will be big headlines this year. We are not alone in this universe. And there is some good news in the United States today on April 28th, 2021. Nearly a year and a half into the horrible COVID-19 pandemic. According to the CDC, 232 million COVID vaccinations have been given to Americans, and new infections have declined by 20%. Let's pray we can keep it going down and not some variant surge. 54% of Americans over age 18 have received at least one shot. 37% are now fully vaccinated, and the CDC announced this week that fully vaccinated people do not need to wear masks when outside, but keeping distance and keeping away from crowds is still advised. The number of United States COVID deaths is now almost 600,000 out of more than 32 million infections. Federal health officials this week have directed nearly all drugstores and grocery store pharmacies to offer second doses of COVID-19, Pfizer, and Moderna vaccines to people who received their first shot. The goal is to make vaccination access much easier now, as 5 million, or nearly 8% of those partially vaccinated, have missed getting their second dose. But the bad news is that India's terrible second wave of COVID is breaking world records for new daily coronavirus cases. A man runs past the burning funeral pyres of those who died from COVID, forcing mass cremations at the New Delhi crematorium, where this man carrying wood for more fires was photographed running by dozens of burning pyres. That was on April 26th. There were nearly 400,000 new cases in 24 hours on Sunday to Monday this week, while the total number of infections have topped 17 million, with 5 million new cases in April alone. Even 2 people on the USA diplomatic staff in India have died, and 100 US diplomatic staff have tested positive for COVID. Use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that had been paused for 10 days has now been lifted. And what happened was that 13 women between age 18 to 49 and 2 more women 50 and older suffered a severe blood clotting disorder called cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, or CVST. One 45-year-old woman died. No men were affected. Earlier, it was reported that most of the women were taking estrogen-related birth control, but what exactly caused the blood clotting disorder is not yet clear. But on April 14th, 2021, this headline, New Scientific Insights on COVID-19 and Blood Clotting, Why It Matters That Researchers Call This the First Viral Disease That Can Be Branded as a Viral Thrombotic Fever, Scientists in Brazil have reported that the COVID-19 coronavirus on its own can cause dangerous blood clots up to 100 times more than any vaccine. In fact, the scientists say blood clotting is one of the most dangerous symptoms of COVID-19 and its mutant variants. On April 14th, Brazilian scientists reported, quote, irrefutable evidence in the current literature that COVID-19 is the first viral disease that can be branded as a viral thrombotic fever. There are other diseases in this category like Ebola and Marburg and dengue fever that are hemorrhagic. Many of the people infected suffer bleeding from their eyes, the nose, and other parts of their body. The bleeding is a sign of the damage that the virus is doing to the victim's arteries and veins. But with COVID-19, the damage done to the system results in blood clots throughout the circulatory system. Clotting was recognized as a problem very early in the pandemic. There was a summary that said patients in their 30s and 40s, some with very mild symptoms, have been crippled by a kind of stroke usually seen in very old people. Clots have also turned up in patients' lungs, causing pulmonary embolisms, and in their hearts, causing heart attacks. Close quote. Blood type may affect COVID-19 outcomes, study shows. This is June 29th from the Texas Medical Center. A year ago, on June 29th, there were headlines like this one from the New England Journal of Medicine. Quote, blood type may affect COVID-19 outcomes, study shows. Our genetic data confirm that blood group type O is associated with a risk of acquiring COVID-19 that was lower than that in non-O blood groups, whereas blood group A was associated with a higher risk than non-A blood groups, close quote. Human blood is inherited just like eye color. There are 4 main types, A, B, AB, and O. Each letter refers to the presence or absence of A or B antigens that are sugars or proteins on the surface of blood cells. Type A is the most ancient blood cell with A antigens on its surface. Type B is estimated to be 3.5 million years old in primates when a genetic mutation modified one sugar component on the surface of red blood cells. And then, 2.5 million years ago, another mutation made that sugar inactive. And that created an O-type blood cell in primates. Type O does not have either A or B sugars on its surface. And then along came a blood type covered with both A and B sugars, called type AB blood. Then there is also the rhesus factor, or Rh factor. It comes from rhesus monkeys in which the protein was first discovered. The Rh factor is an inherited protein found on the surface of red blood cells. If your blood has the protein, you're Rh positive with those spikes. If your blood lacks the protein, you are Rh negative without any surface antigens. Rh positive is the most common blood type. About 85% of Americans have Rh plus blood positive. Now here is the mystery. If the theory of evolution is valid, that every Homo sapiens sapien descended from ancient primates, every human on Earth should be Rh positive. So why are 15% of the general human population different? In August 2015, the Mutual UFO Network posted at the MUFON website an abduction experiencer survey for the purpose to identify common traits among ET contact experiencers. The survey was produced by MUFON's experiencer research team, directed by Kathleen Marden, seen here in this photograph, who, since 1990, Kathleen has done meticulous research on the people in the photograph she is holding, her Uncle Betty and Barney Hill, who encountered a UFO in the White Mountains of New Hampshire on the night of September 19th to 20th of 1961. The eighth question in the MUFON questionnaire that she was overseeing: what is your blood type? As COVID might attack different blood types with different intensities, blood types might also be a key to which humans are taken by other intelligences. Now, Kathleen said in that study, although only 15 to 16% of the population is Rh negative, it was elevated, meaning the percentage was up to 33% in the MUFON study. So that was very significant, close quote, Kathleen Marden, the 2015 director of the MUFON Experiencer Survey. Kathleen has worked on 3 comprehensive studies of nearly 5,000 experiencers, 2 of which she initiated and saw to the end, and has 5 professionally published books. Her first bestseller with nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman is Captured: The Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience, the true story of the world's first documented alien abduction, released in 2007. She and Stanton worked together for nearly 14 years and collaborated on this, a second book, Science Was Wrong, released in 2010. Then Kathleen Marden would write 3 more books, including Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers, released in 2016, Extraterrestrial Contact: What to Do When You've Been Abducted is a comprehensive guide for experiencers and for those who love them, and professionals who work with experiencers and the general public. That was released in 2019. And the book she produced, that includes tonight's Missing Time Abduction, was done in collaboration with Florida MUFON's chief UFO investigator, Denise Stoner. The book is entitled The Alien Abduction Files: The Most Startling Cases of Human-Alien Contact Ever Reported, and that was released in 2013. Kathleen Marden and Denise Stoner investigated 6 cases of family generations of abduction contact. Eventually, Kathleen would discover that one of the most extraordinary cases of all was the surprising revelation from Denise Stoner herself. Back in the 2012 to 2013 time period, Denise was then Florida MUFON's chief investigator, a STAR team investigator, a field investigator, and a state section director in Florida. And after she asked to talk with Kathleen Marden privately, Denise Stoner can also be introduced tonight as an experiencer of well-documented missing time.
Denise, in her hypnosis sessions, recalled finding herself being taken from the car. She saw a beam coming down. The light reminded her of frog jelly with something swirling around in it, like frog eggs. And there were 3 lights, and she had to go into the middle of those lights, like light orbs. And those orbs carried her into the craft. And she was taken to a room down a darkened hallway. But as she was being moved down, she noticed that there were small gray entities lining the wall. The ones that I know are the assistants. They are the guards. They make sure that you don't leave the craft with anything that belongs to them, just like my Aunt Betty saw. And they removed the book that she had been told she could take as evidence. And by the way, it wasn't like a book. Those are the words that she had for it in 1964 when she was hypnotized. It is more like something like what we think of today as a tablet, very stiff plastic covering, symbols vertically embedded into the page.
Almost like an iPad, right?
Yes, something like an iPad, yes. Denise was then taken to a table. She was put on the table, and she said that when she was entering the room, she saw the one that she remembered from being a child who frightened her greatly. She called him the oil can man. He was an insectoid, a mantis type being. His hands were more almost claw-like in a way, pinchers. He had difficulty manipulating, she thought. The head would swivel, not like a human head, more like an owl's head would swivel.
Right.
And he was kind of a tan and greenish color, mottled looking, tall, had vertically placed eyes, very large eyes on his head, a mouth that was very, very low where our chin would be. Kind of frightening to look at. It was always the one who bothered her. And then there was the nice gray, the one that she recognized that was her escort time and time again when she was taken throughout her lifetime. And they inserted something into her foot. It traveled up through her leg, I believe. I've seen this happen with Denise at other times where she showed me that she had an implant inserted into her hand. There was no obvious evidence that it was into her hand. She told me she was taken and she found that bump. And that little thing, we followed up her arm, and I could palpate it. I could feel it. And she was going to go in to have an X-ray, but it just continued up her arm and disappeared before she could do it. So it appears that these implants have intelligence, that they can be inserted anywhere and go to wherever it is that these entities want them to be placed. A funny thing is, more recently, they have been moving into people's jaws. So beneath the teeth, between the jawbone and the root of the tooth.
Any idea why?
Because you can't get to it to remove it. It's difficult to remove when it's down there. Yeah. And a lot of people also have these implants in front of their left ear or just behind the left ear as well. So that was done. A needle was inserted into Denise's navel. We believe that that is being done to collect ova for their program. And when this was finished, she was given messages. The messages she was given are that we're a difficult species. We make so many mistakes. We can't continue the way we are. They're still monitoring us and taking DNA samples for various reasons. They're trying to factor in something that will work for both themselves and us for the preservation of our species and theirs. They're trying to combine the species to make a more survivable creature, they told her, telepathically. And we get to keep some of their experiments, the babies that they have created that are implanted into the mother's womb from the DNA from the mother and father that has been altered. And they don't eat like we do. They eat through absorption. They have several different types, a gel for travel, a liquid for nourishment, and another for healing. And she said it's a liquid that they immerse themselves in. And I know that some humans find themselves immersed in this liquid too, and they can breathe that liquid in. And some humans are immersed in this gel-type substance when they're being taken very long distances.
Is it fair to say that at this point, our government and probably other political systems on the planet see the presence of other intelligences as involved in the creation of yet another humanoid species on Earth that will replace Cro-Magnon, Homo sapiens sapien?
Well, I think that that is a worry. I don't think personally that this is anything that is negative. I think that they are extraordinarily concerned. And this just isn't me talking. Mm-hmm. This is the information that I've received from the 3 studies I've worked on, which amounts to more than 5,000 experiencers. The first one Denise and I did together in 2011 and 12. The next one was the Edgar Mitchell Foundation experiencer study and questionnaire done with PhD academics. And then the third was the MUFON ERT study of 516 experiencers with Dr. Don C. Dundary, Dr. Michael Austin Melton, and some other qualified members of the ERT. So we had open-ended questions. And as an experiencer myself, I have been given information too, but I never repeat that information unless I find it elsewhere, just to make sure that I'm not confabulating this. So what we have discovered is that these entities have been here for a very long time. They come back from time to time to assist in our development and check on our development. They came back in the mid-40s, or maybe a little earlier in the 20th century, and they stayed. They remain here because they're very concerned, they say, about the survival of our species, that we are still a primitive species, and that our technological development is out of sync with our spiritual growth. And until we can grow spiritually, there is a chance that we will end up self-imploding, that we might destroy this planet and all of the living things on this planet, or many of them. They don't want to see that happen. So the entities are not showing themselves to a lot of the public. I know that they have stepped up the craft that is being seen by many, many humans now. They said that there is a reason why they're not showing themselves publicly, and that is that they're taking this very, very carefully. They don't want to frighten us, first of all. They think that humans have been misinformed, and there's much false information being repeated regarding their benevolence and malevolence. They say that they're not malevolent, although there are some species that are not as kind as they are, but they try to keep them at bay. So the message that they are giving to humans is they try not to interfere too much in our development, but they're very concerned about our use of nuclear weapons.
Right. And what is the relationship between the praying mantises, the grays, the blonde-haired Nordics, the tall, black-haired, red-haired, the reptilian? Do you have a sense of the relationship of these different intelligences?
Well, I do, because the grays, 2 different sizes of grays, and the insectoid or mantis type appear to work together. The taller grays definitely appear to be sentient beings. They show emotions. Experiencers have reported that they have seen them age. The smaller ones might be biorobotic. They move only when told to do so. Many people now think that biorobotic might be the case. Where I'm continuing to collect reports on that because I don't want to make any false statements or misstatements, and that's something that I need to pay more attention to. The grays are the most prevalent, the taller ones and the shorter ones who work together, just like the ones who took Betty and Barney and have been prevalent in my own family through my mother and through me as well.
I told you Chocolate would be back. He's the most wonderful, wonderful creature they both are. I think that Chocolate has decided that being up here on this table with me is something that he will do on his own. So we'll let him, he'll settle down here. But I wanted to share a few more very interesting pieces of content that I learned in my interview with Kathleen, and it is that they said that they have talked with people in the abduction experiencers who talk about knowing or encountering two different types of reptilian beings. One, they say, is closer to snake skin, and that they look very beautiful, and that the abductees do not feel malevolence coming from the beautiful snakeskin entities. But Denise also knew about what we have always called, sort of familiarly of those of us who investigate, standing up alligators. They have a bigger snout, they have scales. And she said, quote, "They do have a bad reputation as being more malevolent. And I'm not even certain those are extraterrestrial. They might be earthbound or interdimensional." And the earthbound fits into what I've heard from government whistleblowers, that the reptilians have occupied huge places in this planet for millions of years, and they might actually consider the earth theirs. But others have experimented, and so it's a much more complex geopolitical situation on the earth now than maybe it was once upon a time. She also shared some very interesting statistics from her study of the 5,000 experiencers. From a MUFON ERT study on 516 experiencers, it was discovered that people were generally taken for the first time, 75% of the time, in childhood. And that's very consistent. I would say that my experience has even been higher, that about 90% of the people that I've interviewed, their experiences started when they were 4 years old, often with a buzz or a light in the closet, or feeling like they were floating through a wall at age 4 or 5. And so that's consistent. Also, in the MUFON ERT study, the experiencers were asked, and this is fascinating, if you could end your experiences today, would you? 71% of the overall experiencer population said they would not want to end their experiences with the other intelligences. And 75% of the abductee experiencers who are having genetic material such as eggs and sperm extracted from their bodies, they said they would not want to end their experiences. And many believe that on a soul level, that they volunteered for these experiences as abductee experiencers with other intelligences. I hope you find this interview and this content with Kathleen to be as fascinating as I do, because I really respect her tremendous detailed investigations. Her 5 books are so valuable, and a salute to dear Stanton Friedman, whatever dimension you're in, Stan. He helped us all understand so many aspects going back to Roswell days. And that if we are going to get anything resembling honest truth about the fact that we're not alone in the universe at the so-called 180-day countdown. It is this kind of detailed study and material that it will be so valuable for everybody on the planet to start learning, just like we would learn about another foreign country if we were going to go there. Maybe eventually it will be opened up and we will be learning about other species and civilizations, and books that can help us would be like Kathleen's, I hope like mine, my documentaries, because we will become students. We will become students of the cosmos. We are now, but when it's official, we're going to have to all learn a lot. So I hope that you appreciated Kathleen Marden. And Ian, I would love to know what comments and questions people have now.
Linda.
Yes.
Okay, Linda. First of all, I'm going to do the super chat. So let's go through the list of generous donations tonight. First of all, Moonbird.
Hi, Moonbird.
Gina McHugh, Crop Circle Cole, Mary Kelly, Terene Broker, Stan Kozłowski, Joan Oshie, Carl Balsamo, Glincho, Thought on Fire, Jeffrey Rizzo, Frank Areno, Momo, Back to Constitution, Melee All Day, Christine Marie, and Jacqueline Merkel. I've probably missed a few off, but that's the gist of it.
Thank you.
Okay. Linda, are you in the middle of a rainstorm at the moment?
Yes, it has been raining hard almost the entire day. It is fantastic. We need the water. We're in a drought, and it's so much quieter now, even if you can hear it. Until I had a new roof to stop some leaks. They put on a whole bunch more above my office of roofing. And now we can do the show without it sounding like we're inside of some kind of a kettle drum. So if you can hear this rain, this is gentle compared to what we have endured or tried to endure in rainstorms in the past. And celebrate that we are having water, because there was a fire down in the Bosque, down on the beautiful river in Albuquerque just about 5 days ago, and they got it put out, but it said to everyone, oh, it's too dry and we have to get rain to get through without a lot of fires. So this is a yay moment. Thank you.
That's okay. We've only just had some rain here. We've had one of the driest Aprils on record here as well.
Yeah, it's terrible.
People were saying that they were speculating in the chat, actually, just wondering if it was rain or if it was an applauding audience.
Well, raindrops.
Okay. Well, down to business. People were really fascinated by the data that's being looked at in the abduction studies, and a really good interview with Kathleen Marden as well. Yeah. So thank you for that. A lot of comments and a lot of interest generated here on the blood types, etc.
Yes, I hope that it will inspire everybody to learn more. I think it is really one of the more important subjects. I'm going to say this, that whether it is a pandemic or abductions or whatever it is, the fact that people seem to be in categories of bloodlines in relationship to a lot of these various mysteries seems to me to raise the importance of understanding what our bloodlines are. And so if you were encouraged tonight to go and read a lot more about bloodlines, I think you would find it fascinating. And how many of you don't know what your blood type is? That's something I have encountered. And we should have a card or something that gave out what our specific blood type is, because if you are in an accident and you have to get to a hospital, that's one of the things they need to know. So let's all study more blood types and keep on going, Ian.
Yeah, other people are mentioning that sometimes perhaps the RH type has a lower body temperature as well. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have heard of that. That's why we all need to study, but to find out how much there is in support in the general medical literature, because that is different from the paralleling investigations of people in the human abduction syndrome.
And here's an interesting comment from somebody. They said that they had an eye test which showed that they had a hole in their eye. I've encountered this with witnesses before now who have told me that when they've gone for medical examinations, the medical examination has sometimes turned up, let's say, unusual aspects.
Well, I think what you're hinting at, it would be like implants, but instead of where they have been in ears and toes, that they might be changing to eyes. And as Betty pointed out, which I thought was fascinating, that if they put an implant down below the enamel, down below or into the jawbone, it's not quite clear, that it would be impossibly difficult for humans to get it out, doctors or otherwise. And that also made me wonder, why is it that in animal mutilations, one of the not discussed very often facts is that in mutilations, law enforcement and I and a few others, we were able to document that teeth, a tooth or two, would be removed from the jaw with no cracking, no residue, just like the tooth evaporated. I wonder if there is something that we just don't understand. They're tracking animals, perhaps through blood, tracking humans, perhaps through blood, and that if we knew how big the whole laboratory aspect of the Earth is to these advanced intelligences, we might begin to learn that there are entire longitudinal grids that are part of this whole huge Earth analysis, interaction, terraforming, harvesting from those that can move through the universe.
There's some speculation in the chat as well about the reptilian races that we're talking about. Could it be, Linda, that the reptilians are descended from the dinosaurs? A lot of people are probably unaware that the dinosaurs seem to be a very successful species that lived for about 265 million years.
Well, I would like to take that question in terms of what's becoming, I would say, kind of a moving target. Did the asteroid in the Gulf of Mexico, the Chicxulub crater, is that what honestly took out all of the dinosaurs? Could it have been something that the non-humans, as I have been told and have reported here so many times about the Defense Intelligence Agency analyst who in December of 1999 told me that our government had proof that 3 competing extraterrestrial civilizations have used this planet as a laboratory for at least 270 million years, and that one of the experiments by those 3 competing civilizations were the dinosaurs. And that he said that it was a question that those who were assigned to the monitoring and analysis of other life forms interacting with this planet, the question was, the way he put it, we know, because the Greys have demonstrated for us, that they can move any matter on this planet into another timeline or another dimension. They've demonstrated. So any incoming asteroid, even 6 miles in diameter, which is what was supposed to have hit in Chicxulub, he said that the Greys could have moved that asteroid never hit the Earth. And he said that's why we wonder if they did it on purpose, to end their very long experiment with the dinosaurs. And the very next thing that begins to flourish on Earth that was not flourishing before the wipeout of the dinosaurs are mammals. And we're a mammal. So how much of the history of evolution of life has been something cosmic, spontaneous, divine field, and how much has been other intelligences that look for an extraordinarily beautiful laboratory Earth, a planet like Earth, to do life experiments in. And somewhere in there is probably a bigger truth that we just don't understand yet. So are we the dinosaurs of this century? And Kathleen and Denise Stoner and others, and other investigators, one of the big questions, could humans be at an existential moment in the timeline of this planet? Would we be wiped out? Would we be allowed to be wiped out? Because we are, as Kathleen said, that Denise in the hypnosis, they're talking about the Greys looking at us, you are a difficult species. Well, we are with each other, and I guess we are with other life forms in the universe, but I love humans. I love the human soul. And I think coming in a lot of discussions with Kathleen, who feels that, no, we're not on an existential path. We are on a path to help evolve us past a point that could be very difficult. And that if the non-humans didn't care, or some of them didn't care, that might not happen. But that they're sort of rooting for us to get past a difficult time. And that's sort of the lens I try to look at what happens and when I'm listening to abductees. But I also understand that we are a species that has grown to nearly 8 billion on the Earth. And if the importance of the Earth as a laboratory is greater to other intelligences than the survival of one of their experiments, 8 to 10 billion of us on this planet might destroy the laboratory. So I think this is the way this whole period of time, it's so revolutionary, it's changing so fast. But I opt out every day. I've said to you, go out on a sunny day and breathe in sun and ask always to understand and ask for the most positive from the divine field. And if all of us did this, all around this planet, it might have an impact. And we might find that having praying mantises and having the, quote, nice grays and having the tall humanoids that some of them care about us, and maybe what she said, the nice reptilians, we would learn as a human group to get along with them, and that we would have to then go past the racial strife of this planet. Because what if we end up with grays and praying mantises and standing up reptiles, and they all start being public on the Earth? Wow, would we change our perspective, I think, on a lot of things, and might be humbling for humans to want to know how to keep love and light and peace instead of the opposite. So there may be something about the joining, the coming together of nonviolent other intelligences that might really help humanity on Earth. Well, it's an exciting time in a way. So, Ian, what about another question?
As we continue the countdown to what could be possible disclosure, we asked a question in the audience tonight. Do you think that the extraterrestrials have some control over when disclosure happens, as Haim Eshed has stated?
I actually think that Haim Eshed was right when he was making the statement. It may not be that the political systems, the governments of Earth, were the ones that originally insisted that no one be told. It might be the non-human intelligences. And tonight, I thought that Kathleen Marden gave one of the best insights from the work that she's done with all of the experiencers, and that was they want to see Homo sapiens sapien evolve positively, survive, and flourish. But what they are seeing in the future, based on what we are doing now, is of great concern to them. They think that we are, as she used the word that came from one of the experiencers, that humanity is on the possible verge of imploding, meaning that we, through violence and wars and territorial conflicts and letting the Earth climate get completely out of control, all of it, that we would end up in that old saying, we would mess our own bed, and then we would have no home. Even the fact that Mars may end up being a backdoor to chaos on Earth, it's still, Mars is not Earth. Mars is dry and dusty, and we have this gorgeous planet. And so if you were very, very advanced intelligences that can move point to point, bend space, time, all of that, and you have done various life projects, not only in the Milky Way galaxy, but there's 3 trillion galaxies. And there could be all kinds of life experiments in all of them. And that they want humans to survive and evolve, then maybe it was wise to keep us at a long distance from the truth about their true source, meaning if you go back 5,000 to 10,000 years, when humans were asked to get down on their knees to gods, I don't think they were gods, I think they were extraterrestrials. So that was a manipulative, and you could say an abusive beginning. And now in the 21st century, I think from whistleblowers that we are far more advanced in the blackest of dark programs, and that we are in interstellar trade out in the Milky Way galaxy and perhaps beyond, with the help of some of the non-humans who want to see us evolve. And therefore, it may have been wise to not present themselves in the earlier evolving stages from 45,000 years ago when Homo sapiens sapien crossfaded with Neanderthal. And you could also look at that and say, well, why did they take out the big Neanderthal species that planted or put flowers on graves, and their brain cubic size was greater than the one that came next, Homo sapiens sapien? Why, 45,000 years ago, was there this crossfade and Neanderthalensis died out, and Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien has become the dominant humanoid. Why did that happen? And the question that I asked Kathleen, and it comes up in lots of discussions with people that I know, could it be that the hybrids are another evolutionary step, perhaps to be less warlike and less competitive, and that there will be another crossfade, and Homo sapiens sapien will go, and the next hybrid humanoid would be on Earth? I'm not afraid of talking about these subjects. I feel that we must, as a human family, talk about all possibilities. That's what our government does. And then they prepare for the ones that they want to deal with. And right now, when Kathleen said they're very concerned about your nuclear weapons, they are very concerned about wars and destruction, we should be, we humans, in the family of each other, we should be concerned about those matters as well. So maybe the time is coming where the physical presence of the non-humans will not intimidate and crush us, but will help us learn and maybe flourish. Let's hold on to that as a possibility. Now, I'm down to the point where, Ian, what I would like to do is conclude with something that is very exciting, that is going to happen tomorrow and next week. I have a dear friend, Alan Steinfeld, in New York. He has been in the leading edge of many, many issues and social developments for a long time. And he started New Realities as a get-together to talk about all kinds of facets of evolutionary changes and spiritual and so forth. And he went to St. Martin's Press a year or so ago with a proposal that he would ask 11 of his colleagues, myself included, if each of the 11 people would write a chapter for a book that could come together. And I am holding, this is a like to give to book editors or something. This is like a pre-press. I'm trying to get it straight. Making Contact. Preparing for the New Realities of Extraterrestrial Existence. And a hardcover is coming out and being released on May 4th. And let me just get my notes here. Okay, what we all began to talk about when Alan came to us was that it appears that the power brokers, secret ET others, have been insisting on a policy of lies and denials to keep the human family from knowing the truth. But today, in April 2021, at least there seems to be a change in the government's policies of denials and keeping the alien presence in our solar system one huge secret, while they're out divvying up the asteroid belt for commercial concerns and doing interstellar trade. So when Alan came and talked to me and others, he asked if each of us would contribute our perspective on the revolutionary time that we're in and waiting for the mind crack, is what I call it, that might happen this year or next. And that is the huge headlines that will go around the world that we are not alone in this universe. And what I would like to do is just give you the chapter titles and the people who are in this extraordinary making contact. Nick Pope starts out, as Alan said, it starts out more externally, and the book gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you go into it. And so Nick Pope begins Government Mindset and Our Future Among the Stars. Chapter 2, Grant Cameron, UFO Disclosure and the Theory of Wow. Chapter 3, Dr. J.J. Hurtak and Dr. Desiree Hurtak on extraterrestrials in multidimensional non-local reality. I have the 4th chapter, Contact in the Implicate Order, which is my way of saying that underneath everything, to the atoms, to the neutrinos, there is a fabric that ties everything at the deepest, deepest level together. And this is the very first time in my life that I ever talked about something that happened to me when I was in grade school and was playing in the backyard, going onto a handstand with my legs over a limb. And having done that, coming up from having been upside down for quite a while and looking at a full moon. And as I stared at that full moon, I was there. I was in it. And I knew the moon was hollow. The 5th chapter, it's wonderful. It was an unpublished chapter that Dr. John Mack had written, Studying Intrusions from the Subtle Realm. How can we deepen our knowledge? It is a fascinating chapter by the late Dr. John Mack. Chapter 6, fascinating, by Whitley Strieber, The Return of the Visitors. Chapter 7, Extraordinary Actuality, My Journey to the Stars, by Alan Steinfeld. Chapter 8, Something Moving, by Henrietta Weeks. Chapter 9, Daryl Anka Bashar. His is Telepathic Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Chapter 10, Awakening to Our Cosmic Heritage, by Mary Rodwell, the extraordinary investigator in Australia. And Chapter 11, E.T. Lineages and Human Evolution, with Caroline Corey. So this is next week, May 4th. You'll be able to get it everywhere, Amazon everywhere, and I urge you to do that. And Alan wanted me to tell you that we are going to put the links to getting the book Making Contact in my Earthfiles YouTube information at the top of comment section of this broadcast tonight. And tomorrow we're doing a live Zoom broadcast at Portal to Ascension. It will begin at 3 p.m. Mountain Live. It will be Whitley Strieber, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Alan Steinfeld, and we are going to explore some of the subjects that are in Making Contact in the portal to Ascension. And I'm going to add the link to the live Zoom tomorrow, which I hope all of you will check out, so that at the comment section of tonight's broadcast, it will be where you go at Amazon to get Making Contact, where you can click on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Mountain Live and in all the other time zones, and that you can also see live discussion that will be intermittent on the New Realities YouTube that Alan does. And we will have that YouTube link in the information of the comments of tonight's show. And I hope that there will not be other events, that I will not have a third time of being late. But if you had been in my shoes for the last 36 hours, you would understand. And that we will continue going with this wonderful feeling that we are all growing together on these Wednesday nights get-together. I learn from you and everything that you write me after, and I hope you are finding what we are sharing here to be of value and meaning, valuable meaning, and that even if we go late, 10 or 15 minutes, what difference does it make? If we had a good time, we learned something. I love you guys. And I'll see you next week. And remember, we went to 172,000. We'll make 175,000 for that summer solstice party. And we'll give you more information about how to get the videos to us next week. I love you.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.